Good morning. It's sunny here in Minnesota, which is really exciting because it's melting our snow. This is the time of year that people like to get out in the garden, at least all the avid gardeners. And I have some friends who are really good gardeners. Me, not so much, but I appreciate their skill. So today I'm going to read a book called Two Little Gardeners. This is a really old book. It probably was a book that I had when I was a little girl. You'll see the pictures look really old too. This is Two Little Gardeners. Spring, the snow melted. A snowdrop came up, a robin hopped, and the worm turned in the ground. The groundhog cast his shadow, and the two little gardeners came out of their house to plant their garden. They turned the earth with a shovel and a fork. Then they chopped up the earth with a hoe, and they smoothed out the lumps with a rake, until it was soft and smooth with only little lumps in it. At last it was time to plant round little radish seeds, then black lettuce seeds, round wrinkled pea pods, flat pumpkin seeds, squash seeds, and flat lima bean seeds, and tiny parsley seeds and tomato plants and potato eyes. That's a big garden. When I was growing up, we had a really big garden too. Then the rain came, and look at somebody colored on the pages. And the sun shone, and the wind came softly blowing through the night. And the rain and the sun and the soft winds in the night brought little green sprouts sprouting out through the ground. Radishes popped up, and parsley curled. And under the ground, the beets turned red, and the carrots grew yellow, and the potato sprouts grew bigger. The worms turned the earth over, the moles dug about, and a little mouse built a nest in the grass roots near a rabbit hole. And beautiful vegetable flowers came out, yellow tomato flowers, big yellow squash flowers, red bean flowers, white pea flowers, and potato flowers, all full of bees, their friends, the bees. And the weeds came too. And they grew, and they grew, and they grew. Prickly weeds, tall weeds, feathery weeds. And they grew, and they grew, and they grew. And the two little gardeners said, "This will never do." And they hoed out the weeds. Then the sun shone hotter and hotter. No rain. So they came with their hoes and sprinkled the rows till the dusty dirt was all dark and damp and wet. And the vegetables grew, and they grew, and they grew. And some grew so high the two little gardeners had to put up little fences for the peas to grow on, and tall poles for the beans to climb up, and sticks for the tomatoes to lean on. And they made little hills to hold up the corn. Then came the little birds and fur animals, the gardeners who only come to eat and who come to eat too soon. There were too many creatures in the garden, so the two little gardeners built a big flippy floppy scarecrow and a funny fierce-footed robber-mole to frighten away certain rabbits and groundhogs and squirrels and moles and field mice who had come to eat up the garden. Then in the hot, hot summer came the bugs. So the two little gardeners came with their spray guns, and their friends, the flycatcher and the frog and the toad and the little green garden snake, hopped about catching bugs too: potato bugs, June bugs, ladybugs, tumble bugs, squash bugs, and little green worms. Then the garden grew, and it grew, and it grew. The corn tassels blossomed, the pumpkins got fat, and the beans grew long, and the carrots pushed up through the ground, and the cabbages looked like great green roses all in a row. Day after day, something was ripe and ready to pick. Now the pages have been torn. So the two little gardeners came with their baskets. They picked and they picked and they picked. Pumpkins and parsnips and peppers and cabbages and beans off the poles and potatoes deep down in the ground and the corn from the tall green stalks until everything was picked. See the rip? I think this book got lots of use. Pages are torn. And they cooked, and they cooked, and they cooked and they cooked. Pumpkins and potatoes and parsley, corn and cabbage and beans until everything was cooked. And they ate and they ate and they ate and they ate. Cabbage and carrots and cauliflower, beets and beans and long ears of corn until they were full. That sounds like a perfect meal for me. But they couldn't eat it all. So they put up some things in cans and jars and bottles and stored them away on the shelves. The onions were dried and hung in big batches. The carrots were stored in big tubs. There was a bin for potatoes and a bin for pumpkins and a dry, high shelf for squash. Then the little gardeners rested and they sang a little song. Hi diddle diddle, we're full as a fiddle of things that come out of the ground. What we plant in the spring, we eat in the fall and put up in jars and eat it all when the snow comes falling down. Have a good day.